Okay, so you've decided to go to therapy. I think that's awesome. It's really helpful, and I'm probably a little bit biased, but I think probably everyone could gain something from seeing a psychologist. But it can be really difficult to know who to go to. There are so many out there, and it is a tricky decision because there is a big financial cost to going. It's a big commitment in terms of your time. You're actually investing a lot into it. And I mean, apart from that, you're choosing someone who you are going to open up to about some of the things that you struggle with the most. And so you really want to find that person who's going to be a good fit for you, who's going to be the right person to help you. And so I thought I would do a blog about some ways and some tips that it could be helpful for helping you to pick someone who's going to end up being the right fit. So I guess my first tip is that it's probably not the best idea to pick a psychologist based on their cost. So the reason that I think that is not something that should be the main factor in your decision making is that sometimes if you end up picking a psychologist purely based on their cost, and they actually don't have the qualifications or the appropriate training or the appropriate experience in the presenting concerns that you have, it might mean that it ends up taking longer. It might not be effective at all, and then you have to go and see someone else anyway. And so it might actually also mean that you just feel really disheartened about psychology in general. It's actually much better to pick someone based on their qualifications, their areas of specialty, their expertise, their areas of interest, who they've worked with before, the types of settings that they've worked in before. And those things are going to be a much more reliable indicator of the effectiveness of the treatment, and will probably mean that because they're experienced in treating it, because it's their bread and butter and they do it all the time, they will know the most effective treatment. They'll be able to administer it really easily and efficiently, which means that, in the long run, it could actually mean that you're spending less time in therapy, which is actually a financial benefit to you. So yeah, that's definitely something to consider. Although I do understand that sometimes finances play into it, and it's important to be realistic about what you can afford and commit to. And I would definitely encourage you to talk to the psychologist that you choose to see about that. But I wouldn't recommend it be the main factor in making your decision. The second tip that I would have is make sure you like them. We know from research that the therapeutic relationship is actually one of the strongest components in therapy that leads to effective outcomes. So if you don't really like your psychologist, for whatever reason that might be, if you don't really have any respect for them, it's going to undermine your treatment. And we know that the therapeutic report is necessary but not sufficient for good outcomes in treatment. So what that means is that it has to be there for therapy to work, but then on top of that, you also need to implement some sort of evidence-based treatment on top, as an adjunct to that. But basically, even if you're administering an evidence-based treatment, if the therapeutic relationship isn't there, it won't work. So make sure you like them. There's a couple more tips on the blog if you read down, so I encourage you to read it. That was just a little bit of a taster. So, look, I hope that you are able to find somebody who is a good fit for you. And I wish you all the best of luck with your therapy.